Welcome back to the Exercise of the Week with Charlie Marlowe, our exercise coordinator. Charlie, what have you got today? Actually, I already know, and I'm looking forward to this one, but go for it, pal.
Today, we're moving on to the category of kind of the unique and, pulling out of the box. Like, what is this exercise, So kind of the more...
Why would we do this?
Yeah, unfamiliar territory.
Very much so.
So today, we're going to talk about the Landmine Press. So
right, okay.
Landmine, it's a unique name. What does that mean? What's the purpose? And so just to give a brief history on like what the landmine is, okay?
Right.
So because, I always got to bring out my history.
Yeah,
so,
and it's the landmine. This must be a very explosive topic.
Yeah, that's good. There? Yeah, I like that. and you would be right by saying that. So the name is fitting. So back in 1999, Bert Soren, he's the owner and creator of Sorenex. It's a well-known equipment company in the strength conditioning world, and he developed it mainly to train Olympic hammer throwers in track and field. And so he needed something that allowed for more rotational power with rather than just a typical barbell, right? And so he was like, how can I come up with something that is more rotational focused that can give me the adaptation that I need for these hammer throwers? Kind
of outside of the box movements, where you've got that straight line with the bench press, straight line with the lat pull down, these kind of things, straight line with the shoulder press.
Yeah.
This is gonna add some variation to it. Therefore, it hit other muscles.
Yeah, and so he's like, I'm trying to do this specific thing for this specific group of athletes. How can I develop this piece of equipment? And so what he did is he developed the landmine attachment. And so for those of you who don't know, you can essentially mount it to the floor, and then you put a barbell. It's kind of like it's a pipe you can stick a barbell in, and then it allows you to kind of rotate around the bar. You can do several different movements with it. And
the landmine itself, I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do it. We have them actually hooked to our equipment.
We do, yeah.
And I think we've also got some that you can actually drop into plates.
Yep.
That device actually sits on the floor or low.
Yep.
And then basically it's a sheath.
Yep.
It's a holster.
It's like a holster,
for the barbell. Yeah. And we're going to be here all day if you're talking about all the exercises you can do with a landmine.
And so that's why today I had to narrow it down to one.
Yeah, I figured so.
We'll probably come back to this eventually down the road, but today we're just going to be focused on the Landmine Press.
Right.
So I thought that was a little more fitting in this regard to the hammer throwers. So we'll talk about the press today. So he developed this, and then of course it was for this specific group of athletes, but then the rest of the fitness world caught on. They're like, oh wow, there's a lot of applications for this specific device, and so they've developed several different exercises that you can do with it.
Right.
And so
some of these kinesiologist nerds that we know of look at something like that and go, how many ways can I multiply all the exercises out of this thing?
Our mouths start to water, and we're like, oh, this is good. So a new piece of equipment.
Holding him into one is going to be unique, just the press.
That's right. But I'm going to try my best to rein it in today.
Right.
So, but that's kind of the history behind it. So the functional, again, we've talked about like the functional training. How does this exercise carry over to life? For a sport, and for them this was geared towards hammer throws, but as we'll talk about, there's a lot of great benefit just for your everyday client who's not trying to throw a hammer, but they want to pick their kids up off the floor. So some benefits for this specific exercise, and one of the reasons that I really love it is, let's say you have somebody coming into the facility and they're brand new to working out, but they have had some shoulder issues in the past. So they can't really lift overhead well, whatever that may be. And they really want to try to, like I said earlier, pick their grandkids up overhead.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast before, but there's this really awesome commercial. Y'all should check it out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know where you're going with this.
It's this grandpa, and it shows him, picking up a kettlebell.
He finds it like in a shed or something.
It's dusty. He wipes it off, and all throughout the commercial, he's picking up this kettlebell, and he's working really hard. He's waking up early. His alarm clock's going off. His family's watching him. They're like, "What is he doing? Why is he doing this?" And you get to the end of the commercial, and you see why he's been picking up this kettlebell, and it's to lift up his grandchild so that they can put the star on the top of the Christmas tree.
It's on Christmas Day, and that's the whole thing he was training for. So, hey, it's your why. That's what we're after, and so that was his why. I think it's fantastic. So, but it also works for athletes, doesn't it?
So it does.
No. I love that you went in my territory.
I did. I know.
Which is great. So, but I mean, and that's what if you thought if you've seen this, if you've seen the exercise of the week before, we usually will go on each end of the spectrum.
Yep.
And we talk about somebody that comes in that's super fit, is training for an athlete, it's training for a sport and what have you. We talk about that, but we also talk about the other end. You see, all these exercises are applicable for all these different age groups. So it's just the fact that he stole my territory, which is the senior. So, but do you know anything? Do you know anything about how you can use this for athletes, Charlie?
Yeah, so
I'm thinking like pass blocking.
Yeah, right. Pass block. I mean, there's several. Obviously, your overhead athletes, quarterbacks, pitchers.
Right.
You want to strengthen that area, and I think this is a good way to train the shoulder area.
Right.
Bench press gets a bad rap for like quarterbacks, pitchers a lot, and they try to stay away from that. But still, utilizing different pressing movements is good because you want to strengthen your shoulders, and so Landmine Press is a great option. The reason I brought up the whole overhead pressing situation with the client is, let's say they have trouble overhead pressing. A direct overhead press might be a challenging place to start, but using an option like a Landmine Press, again, it's a great tool to introduce some overhead pressing if they have complications with a direct overhead press, let's say with a barbell or a dumbbell.
It basically, you can change the angle. It's one of the big things about it. So, and when, correct me if I'm wrong, but moving it forward a bit engages the chest a little more while still working the shoulders and teaching the shoulders that are expanding that range of motion and starting to get it to where you can eventually go all the way overhead with it. So that makes sense.
Yeah, so I really enjoy using that when someone comes in. They're like, I can't lift overhead. I'm like, well, let's try this first. And often, over time we'll work that for a couple weeks, and they'll notice, I'm getting stronger right here, and then you'll be able to progress them to overhead eventually. And again, that's just a huge win for them coming in. This is something I've never been able to do, and then they come in, 2 months later, and they're finally lifting overhead. And it's demoralizing when you have been able to do something for so long and then you can't. Right? And then to be able to get somebody back there is a big win for them. It's a big win for us. So, I mean, it's an easy learning curve, this exercise is. It doesn't require too much background in exercise and working out to be able to understand how this can carry over. And that's one of the reasons that I really like this exercise so much.
Some tips for it, for getting started in it and what have you? Got ideas for progression?
Yeah. So one of them, when you're doing this exercise, thinking about the setup. So I typically teach it starting out with just a shoulder width stance and then a slight lean forward into the bar. So if you're leaning back, it's just not a good position to start into. So you want a slight lean forward. And then a lot of times with this specific exercise, you kind of lose some of the tension at the top of the movement as you press it away from your body. Just because of the way that the bar is angled.
As it angles up or whatever, the weight goes more down into the bar and off of you.
And so you're not getting that upper range per se if you're not using some sort of other resistance. So what I like to sometimes program in is adding a band. So you'd stand on the band, and as you press, the band allows for continued resistance throughout the whole range of motion. So there's different ways to progress it. If you're wanting to get a little more out of it, I'd say try adding a band in. That would give you a little more range of motion, a little more weight throughout the full exercise. And then lastly, I'd say, try doing a single arm press. So we've talked about, the double arm press is the one that often people think about, but throwing in a single arm press could be great because let's say, a lot of people come in, one arm might be a little stronger than the other. And if you
not even know it.
Not even know it. And they come in like, wow, man, like I didn't realize that I'm stronger on one side than the other. But, if you're right-handed and you do a lot of things with your right hand over the course of years, that tends to add up. And, you might be a little stronger on that side. It's not a bad thing, and we can fix it easily. But if you're
favor it in whatever the sport you're doing, I noticed that in my swimming. My right arm is a lot stronger. I favor it. I don't even notice that I'm doing it. I think I'm swimming equally. But you're talking going from a bilateral movement. Somebody comes in with a bench press, wants to work on that bench press, and then you take them over to a shoulder press on a landmine, and they do it unilaterally and find out, wow, I've got a huge difference. That's why your bench press is being held back. So exactly.
Because you might have, when you're doing a bench press, for taking that example, your right arm might lock it out a little quicker than your left arm. If you continue to do that bilateral exercise, you're not targeting that one arm independently. It's really never going to get to where the other arm is. So that's why throwing in a unilateral single arm exercise could be really key, because you're able to train that arm independently. You're allowing it to get stronger aside from the other arm, and so it's going to help it kind of catch up.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So trying to do that, avoid compensating for that weaker arm, trying to do some single arm exercises as well.
And there's almost no end to how much resistance you can add to this.
No,
I mean, because I guess there is, but you get a longer bar with an extension on it. But I mean, piling plates on top of it, and then and I love the band idea. That's fantastic, continuous. And then going for different level bands.
Right.
So, but what I like about it also is the fact that you can start extremely light with this.
Oh yeah,
extremely light with this.
Yeah, I mean we have several bars here at the facility. I know we have a kids bar starting out that's about 15, 20 pounds.
Exactly.
Then we have a women's Olympic bar, which is 35 pounds. It's just a little smaller than the men's. And then the men's, we have the 45. So several different bars you can start off with. And then, as you said, we can progress adding plates on. So, again, we can start this with any age, any skill level. It doesn't really matter.
And also, you mentioned those weights. The 15-pound kids bar, 35 pounds women's bar, 45-pound men's bar. But you're not lifting, because one side is actually in the landmine.
Right.
You're not even lifting
the whole
nowhere near the whole amount of that weight. So the 15-pounder, you may be handling 5 to 10 pounds, depending on how you change the angle of it.
Right.
And so you can start extreme. If you can start light, we definitely can go to the other extreme. But I think when people are thinking about overhead, there's so much the beliefs about that. And we're talking about our not so much our athletes here, but we're talking about especially our seniors or those that have gotten kind of the frozen shoulder, don't feel like they can raise their arm. That's why you can start at light and, like you say, progress. Fantastic progression.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited to continue to dive into the landmine. I think we'll have a lot more coming out of it in the future.
And there's several. I'm gonna stop him here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I can keep going if you want.
So many variations. The video that's running. I mean, you can change that. You can add the legs into it.
Yeah.
And to do explosive stuff. There's lots we can do the landmine. Before we go on,
cut me off.
Let's tell you. Look, if you have any questions about this particular exercise or any others, or if you want some help with putting together your fitness routine, or have us look over your routine, a couple ways you can do that. First thing, you reach out to Charlie directly at charlie@personaledgefitness.com. You can call us here at 251-341-0927 and set up a consult. Just say, look, I've got a place to work out, whatever. I just want to know. I want you to take a look at my program. Let's make it more efficient for you. We're more than glad to do that. So in a landmine is just a good idea. The variations that we have here at Personal Edge, how we can take you from wherever you are right now to that D1 scholarship, to more shoulder mobility, or just to reach your level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.